but like one thing she said, she says, last week I made a cocktail and I put it in the refrigerator and I was going to throw it out. And I thought, no, I wonder if I put lime in this, what it would taste like. So
Right.
she put some lime in it, changed the whole thing. She said, it was so good. I drank the whole thing. So what does that say about your business? It might
Right.
just be one little thing that you forgot. And if you just tweak it
Right.
one tiny little bit, it could turn into this fabulous thing, right? So she uses the analogies all throughout the whole conversation, intertwining business with different, analogies and with what different people, questions that they're asking, and she'll throw a question out there. So it really is pretty cool. And it's really grown. I was there from the first one, and there was
Mm-hmm.
only like, I don't know, two or three of us on there, right? And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And she has a lot of the same people, gets a lot of interaction.
Yes.
So,
So that's what I was saying. Like, I mean, it can be virtually anything. Um, I mean, I really like the more true to life stuff that's happening and where you don't have to have a script. But I'm thinking, we could start using this as a not just a backdrop, but also as a place that you can connect with people all around the world. And then at the same time, you can say, hey, we're going to do a casting call for this. Anybody that wants to play parts, they can come in here. So it's not like we're trying to drag them in. It's like, they want to be part of something, right? So I'm kind of like going back to all the things I saw, the communities doing in Sanzar, and the one that was really intriguing was with what I think it was Fire Goat. He was just finding people's scenes, and then he would say, hey, I don't care, we're just gonna act, right? Just make something up, you know. And it was actually pretty entertaining.
so it's kind of like an improv.
Very improv. So people would just be doing something. You're like right out of the blue, they would do something, and then you'd have to riff off of it. Like if I fell down on the floor, what would you do if you saw that, right? If I, you know, it could be virtually anything, right?
Well, yeah, some people might say, "Oh, I do CPR," and other people might say, "I laugh my ass off," and
Exactly.
so you got the extremes, right?
Some of the stuff was pretty funny. I mean, but if you're trying to like have a full production and have scripts and play certain parts, that takes a lot of planning. And so
Well, it
what I
is,
was
and you got to have people play the role, and then you got to make sure everybody shows up for the show.
that exactly. So what I was thinking is that we make it an event, call it casting call, right? Making it an actual event, casting call. They show up. We talk maybe for about maybe 10, 15 minutes of the idea that we want to have for a show. Anybody could just say, well, let's do a show on this. And yeah, okay, that's what we're going to go do. And then we look for a world, and then we look for a backdrop, which could be that world. And then you just go to town, act, just start throwing out lines. Someone just starts, starts it, and then it's kind of like playing hot potato, and people just, they buy into it, you know.
Well, I think that's a good idea.
Hmm.
Are you gonna like put it on Facebook Live and stream it out, or are you gonna record
That's
it
what I'm
and then
doing
put it
right
out?
now. That's what I'm doing right now.
So
See,
you're
I
recording our
get,
conversation right
I,
now.
I get the best when you don't even know when the cameras are rolling, Beverly.
Well, um, You're lucky it's me, because
Yeah.
sometimes when the camera's not rolling and you put something out there you didn't
No,
have
that's
permission to do, you.
well, actually, I do.
So,
I actually do have permission to
uh,
do that because you signed. It's actually in the terms of service with Sanzar. You're waiving your rights to someone that's streaming in the platform, seeing that you can't hold Sansar accountable for because there's so many streamers that come in here, right? Think of how many issues Sansar would have, right, with people coming in here streaming and then not get the permission from that other person.
oh yeah, that's kind of like all the crap that they had going on in with YouTube,
Yep.
right? Because people are recording stuff, and there's music playing in the background that they don't even realize
Yep.
is playing in there, right?
It's
And then
royal.
they wonder why their videos are kicked off, and it's like,
Yep.
well, what did I do?
Yep. Yep.
Right? And they don't even know.
Yep. Anyways, that's kind of like a thought that I'm having. Like, we invite people to come be part of something, right? I was actually I liked how what's her name was tonight. It's like I'm hearing it everywhere else as well. It's like I think it's a Ron Williams thing, being getting out of the way and being part of something bigger than yourself, right?
Right.
I'm literally starting to just have that as my new mindset. Like it's not about me, it's about everybody, and everybody can be part of something. And it is bigger than everybody. It's bigger than anybody, it's bigger than you or me, so this could be, this right here could be just somewhat, it could be valuable content that someone just comes along and sees this and they're like, wow, I didn't know, you could be an actual avatar, in a VR world. It's like I did a video the other day. I posted it on the Tribe Up, and I had a few people like they said that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. You actually being an avatar in a world talking about, you know, business, you know, and I had people reach out to me saying, hey, I want to learn more about this.
Right.
But yeah, I'm thinking, I mean, the mind's the limit of what we could do. I mean, how did Friends get so big? How did Seinfeld get so big? How did MASH get so big?
Well, MASH had the same setting, right,
Mm-hmm.
which was on the battlefield and in their tents, right?
Yep.
And Friends were always at the bar. They were always at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Steinfeld because I never could stand the guy.
Seinfeld was like always in the apartment, in his apartment, and then he always had, his friends from work or wherever always coming into his home and saying, "What's going on?" It's, but it'd be centered around something. It's pretty funny though.
Right.
I wonder if there's like a AI or something that you could just say, "Hey, I want to do a show on this. This is the theme," and it just pops it all out, and then there you have all creative content with characters and their roles and what they're supposed to be doing in the backdrop scenes and stuff like that. I'm sure something's out there.
Yeah. Well, this would actually probably be a pretty good place to have it, right? You had somebody here, right? And you had your
Mm-hmm.
audience out there, and they could come up, sit in the chair, and it's like, okay, let's tell your story here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Tell your story. You're on candid camera.
tell my story. Oh my goodness, what kind of story would I tell? Give me a subject. Give me something to go on. What do you want me to tell a story on?
Uh,
Because we need to have a hot topic. So, what would be a hot topic that you want me to tell a story on?
how about before COVID? Tell me a story before COVID. how the world was before COVID.
How I saw the world before COVID?
Anything.
Well, that's a pretty vague topic. So, I'd have to say how I saw the world before COVID. Say in the last 3 years prior to COVID.
Mhm.
Um, I saw a lot of distancing, which was kind of interesting. You know, a lot of technology. Of course, technology is all around us and still is, and it just gets advanced. You know, I mean, from one week to the next, it changes so much.
Mhm.
But with the phone technology, you know, with cameras and selfies and social media, what I was noticing is people were getting lost in their they were getting lost in their technology. They were getting lost in their phones.
Mhm.
That conversations weren't even verbal anymore. I mean, you'd see a group of people, and it didn't really matter what ages they were. You know, sitting around the table instead of conversations going on. You know, everybody had their phone. You know, going back and forth, and sometimes the messages were to the people across the table from you, and it's like, what happened to the voice, right?
Mhm.
You would see toddlers, you know, 1 year olds and 2 year olds, 3 year olds, 4 year olds, you know, sitting in their, you know, booster chairs or their high chairs. And what do they have in front of them? You know, they had a tablet or somebody's phone. They're playing games. You know, it was a distraction. And so I started seeing that separateness, right? And it got
Mhm.
to be more and more and more, even people walking down the street. So fast forward to COVID, all of a sudden people were isolated and literally separated physically,
Mm.
which I think was a massive wake up call for people because all of a sudden now they're experiencing the separation, not being able to see the person or talk with them. So the only lines of communication then were your technology devices, right? And now we're talking with businesses and personal and, you know, everything was done through the phone. FaceTime got to be really hot on. More lives started showing up on all the social medias. Zoom, oh my goodness, they were inundated. I mean, they actually lost their servers because so many people were getting on all at the same time.
Mhm.
Because people were starving for that interaction, that vocal, let me see you interaction. Um, the social media is the clubhouse social media, which is all verbal, just, you know, skyrocketed and still is skyrocketing. You know, so when you look at that, I think people all of a sudden had an awareness of, oh my gosh, I I really do miss being around people. I really do want that face to face, and they're paying more attention. You know, with things opening now, and more people are getting back into, if you want to call it normal.
Mhm.
So the interactions are there. You're not seeing people with their faces in their devices like you used to prior to. So, you know, again, that's pros and cons on both sides of the fence when it comes to technology, but
Are
it's the awareness
are
of
people masked
interaction.
are people masked up where you're at?
Um, for the most part, no. I know going into different businesses here, um, depending on the county that you're in, um, they require it. I've gone into some and they don't care. Others, you know, you walk in the door and they say, you know, we're still under the constraints of, so we would appreciate it if you're going to be in the store that you put on a mask, right? They're
Right.
nice about it. They're, some places that I've been, other than where I'm living right now, were downright rude. You can't come in here without a mask and blah blah blah. It's like, holy crap, I'm out of here, you
Yeah.
know. So I think there's been both extremes where people who weren't actually bitter or cruel, are under a lot of anxiety and the separation. And I think they respond and they don't even realize they're responding the way they respond because they're threatened by their um, employers, right?
Hmm.
That you have to confide, and you better make sure anybody that walks in here is covered up, because if you don't, you're going to lose your job, things like
Yeah.
that. Which, so I can see where there's been the extremes on both sides of the fence, even in the healthcare industry, uh, with anxieties and depressions and suicides went up. I mean, oh my gosh, just a lot of crazy things. And now with the PTSDs, especially with children, um, children are like, how do I interact? I mean, I can't see people, the fear that's behind it. It's like, wow. I mean, it's really sad because now it's kind of almost like a 50-50, or in a lot of places are by choice. You can wear or not to wear. That they leave it to your discretion. I know when I was out on East Coast, it was that situation, and I'd walked into a open market, and it was a fresh food stand, right? And I walked in without a mask, and there was a mother there. She was a young mother, and she had two little ones that were probably, I want to say, ages maybe like 4 and 6.
Hmm.
And when I come walking in, it's like both of the kids moved and hid behind their mother. And it just broke my heart to think, oh my gosh, what are we teaching these kids?
Hmm.
That, oh, if they see someone without a mask, you better hide? Where back in the day, you want to know, pre-COVID, it was like if you saw somebody for the mask, you better duck or run, And so it's sending such mixed messages. I mean, never would you have ever thought that you'd walk into a bank with a mask on, right?
Right.
And be accepted. So the craziness, the miscommunication messages that are being sent out is just something I think society is going to have to deal with, mentally and emotionally, for an extended period of time. Because this wasn't something that was, 2 or 3 months. It's still going on a year and a half into this. Um, and every age bracket and even cultures and belief systems all play a role in what's going to become that belief system of these children. Their worlds have been upside down, with education. They can't go to school with their friends. They can't interact with their friends. And again, that's why the social media or excuse me, not social media, the virtual reality, where we are right now in the virtual reality world here,
Hmm.
the gaming industry skyrocketed,
Yep.
right? And the interactive games, especially, are what really, really skyrocketed. And so this is another way to figure out how to do business, how to do education, how to just have fun.
Yeah, I
So
think you can do virtually anything
that's my
these days.
story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's your story. You get number one. Number one.
So what is the difference between sharing an opinion and telling a story?
I think I think you can be opinion or fact based, however you want to put it. I mean, it's your story. So get your groove on.
Yeah, but if you ask
Groove
someone
on.
to share a story, what's the difference of sharing a story than if you ask someone to share their opinion?
Well, opinion could get long-winded. I think sharing a story, but I think if like you're saying, okay, well, where do I start, right? I mean,
Hmm.
story could go on and on as well. Um,
So could an opinion.
yeah.
Well, I think opinion kind of leaves the door open for um, arguments, maybe, or you know, where things could get a little out of hand. Where a story, you can incorporate your opinion in a story, and it's not going to ignite
So what?
a
I got
heated
one.
discussion.
So what's your opinion on um the government supposed to release, all those documents about, all those, they call them UAPs,
They call them what?
unidentified UAPs. It's
Oh,
not UFOs anymore. It's called UAPs. So they just released a document that on the 27th of last month, to Congress, stating, "Hey, this is what it is." There, of course, there's classified information. There's unclassified. So
right.
the unclassified, they're just saying, yeah, it's definitely unexplained. We can't figure it out, and it's not any of us, and we don't think it's any other country doing it as well. So it's got us concerned, right? So there is a concern in there. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think it's been undercover long enough, and it's about time that this stuff was released because, I mean, we have our rights as United States citizens, or even, world, citizens, regardless of what country it is. It's not just happening in the U.S; it's happening all over. So I think everyone, every country should release what their documents are because they're in cahoots anyways. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a big fan of government, but some people say, well, maybe you're a conspiracist and whatever. So there's a lot of name calling, and I'm not I'm not going to set myself up for name calling because that doesn't do anybody any good. But as far as having rights and exposing,
Mm-hmm.
the truth, it's like, come on, there's way too much out there. This isn't back in the 20s, oh, the sky is falling and everybody goes into a panic. You know, talking about, would you say they're not called aliens anymore?
No, they're not called. Well, they're called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenons.
Okay, that's a lot of technical
Yeah.
terminology.
Well, it's stemming
So
from it's stemming. I don't know if you watch 60 Minutes, but they've
I
they
don't have a
had
TV, so
okay. So just you can probably watch it on YouTube too. But so 60 Minutes interviewed those pilots that were chasing those objects down that they couldn't explain, and these pilots were giving like detailed you know information of that it wasn't anything that they've ever seen before, and
mhm.
they're calling them tic tacs, where they're able to fly in the water, they're able to fly up in the sky, and they're able, like, I mean, they're going like literally like 20,000 miles an hour instantly. That's how
Right.
fast they're flying. So if if one if another country has a technology, maybe it's a, like an unmanned, like they're thinking like a drone or something. I mean, that technology is definitely dwarfing our technology. So that raises a
Well,
concern,
right.
yeah, to the United States and all the allies. But the thing is, we're nobody's coming forward and saying they have that type of technology. I remember Russia. I think it was when around the time when Kim Jong Un was saying that he's going to blow up the United States. Remember? I remember Russia coming
Right.
out.
God, that was a long time
Yeah,
ago, right?
I remember Russia coming out saying that they have technology that can evade, radar and stuff that you wouldn't be able to see it on. You wouldn't be able to see it happening, and so that kind of makes me concerned. Maybe Russia or maybe China has the technology that they're getting into our electronics and stuff and making us see things that we shouldn't be seeing or something. That's
Oh,
my take on
well,
it.
yeah. Yeah, you just made a comment there. They might be seeing something that we're not seeing. Well, let's look at holograms, okay?
Mhm.
And they're a very real thing, but an unreal real thing, right? So who's to say that it maybe it was just a hologram up there and a flash?
Yeah.
You know, when you look at all the technology and the extremes of things that can be created, well, who's to say? I mean, there's so many possibilities now of things that it could or couldn't be. It's unexplained. We all agree on that. It's an
Mm-hmm.
unexplained phenomenon,
It'd be crazy.
and an unexplained phenomenon is like, how do you label something like that? You don't, right?
Yeah. It'd be crazy. What if another country had the technology to actually tap into your pineal gland, electronically, and they'll
Hmm.
put images in your mind, making it seem like you're seeing something that you're not.
Well, that technology already has been around, Robert. They were doing that. Oh God, decades ago.
What's it called?
I don't know what it's called. Sometimes it's called LSD,
Oh, okay.
ayahuasca. Uh, you know, when you're looking at it from that standpoint. But again, they can send frequencies with pictures and stimulate things in your mind that show a picture of. So there's a lot of things that are out there to trigger what the brain sees and does and how it responds. Now, can it happen to anybody? Uh, there's probably, the mindset that you're in. Let's put it that way. The mindset that you're in, the trauma that's going on in your life, um, if you're under an influence, whether it's trauma, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's emotion, there's so many variables that take place where stimulation can happen even stronger. And, you start that hallucination. So everyone has a hallucination trigger in their chemistry makeup. That's why we visualize pictures. That's why we can see things and describe things in our own visual mind, when someone makes a statement, you know, hey, don't think of a pink elephant, and boom, all of a sudden you got flashes of pink elephants all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your hallucination trigger section of the brain can be triggered um, remotely. So That's not that far fetched.
Hence the reason why people started wearing tinfoil over the top of their head, thinking that aliens were trying to tap into their mind.
Yeah, well, again, and that's a fear and a belief system too, right? So, uh, it it can lead you to that, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a crazy world we live in, um, and if you're not crazy, you can't live here, right? So, it I must say it's definitely an intriguing world.